distinguishing fiction and non-fiction. Now, when we talk about fiction, it is a literature in a form of prose, especially short stories and novels, that describes imaginary events and people. Now, fiction is any creative work portraying individuals, events, or places in ways that are imaginary or inconsistent with history. Now, fact or plausibility. In a narrow sense, fiction refers to written narratives in prose, often referring specifically to novels, novellas, and short stories. Now, examples of fictions are mysteries, science fiction, romance, fantasy, chick lit, crime thrillers are all fiction genres. Now, examples of classic fiction include To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, so A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens in 1984. It was George Orwell and Pride. While when we talk about nonfiction, it is any document or media content that attempts in good faith to provide accurate information regarding a real world topic. It is written to communicate facts or opinions about reality. Nonfiction contents may be presented either objectively or subjectively. Common literary examples of nonfiction include expository, argumentative, functional, and opinion pieces. Now, essay on art or literature, biographies, memoirs, journalism, and historical. We also include scientific, technical, or economic writings, including electronic ones. Now, nonfiction and fictions in writing have many similarities in their structures and elements. They can both contain characters, a setting, and a plot. Both types of writing can contain elements of truth or real people, places, and events. Now let's proceed to distinguishing the realistic fiction versus fantasy. Now, realistic fiction creates imaginary characters and situations that depict our world and society. It focuses on themes of growing up and confronting personal and social problems. This genre portrays characters coming to understand themselves and others. We have an example of realistic fiction. A popular example from the realistic fiction genre would be The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, a book about teenage girls struggling with cancer. In this regard, it is fiction about something set in real life, in a manner that readers can identify or empathize with. Now, characteristics of realistic fiction. Realistic fiction stories tend to take place in the present or recent past. Characters are involved in events that could happen. Characters live in places that could be or are real. The character seems like real people with the real issues, solved in a realistic way. The events portrayed in realistic fiction conjure questions that our reader could face in everyday life. Now, realistic fiction is a genre consisting of stories that could have actually occurred to people or animals in a believing setting. The faculty or activity of imagining things, especially things that are impossible or improbable, while fantasy is a pleasant situation or event that you think about and that you want to happen, especially one that is unlikely to happen. Examples of fantasy include the William Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and also The Travels by Jonathan Swift. We have also The Lord of the Rings and The White, the Ones, and Future King. Now, fantasy is a genre of fiction that uses magic or other supernatural elements as the main plot elements, theme, or setting. So many works within the genre takes place in imaginary worlds where magic and magical creatures are common. Now, fantasy is generally distinguished from the genres of science fiction and horror, with the expectation that it steers clear of scientific and macabre themes. Now, respectively, though there are great deals of overlap between the three, all of which are subgenres of speculative fiction. Now, reality is the state of things as they actually exist, rather than as they may appear or might be imagined. In a wider definition, reality includes everything that is and has been, whether or not it is observable or comprehensible. A still broader definition includes everything that has existed, exists, or will exist. And the last one, recognizing other genres. Genres categorize movies. Categorizing movies makes it easier for the viewer to discover what she likes and what will want to see. Putting a movie into a particular genre or category does not diminish the quality of the movie by assuming that if it can be put into a genre, the movie is ordinary and lacks of originality and creativity. No genre consists of four elements or parts. First, we have character, story, plot, and setting. Now, an equation for remembering the genre is story, which is the action, plus plot, plus character, plus setting equals genre. This becomes an easy way to remember the elements of a genre. Now, the above elements of story, plot, setting, and character equal a specific category of movie. These elements are discussed regarding how their variations, create a different category of movie. Some genres may be as general as comedy, but do not have some genres like comedy. The subgenres of comedy differ from one another based on the fluctuations of the characters in the story. Other genres are crime, war, western, spy, adventure, science fiction, horror, fantasy, biography, and mystery. This is why this chapter is longer than the other because of the discussion of these variations. Drama can be considered a genre, even though some critics do not consider it as a genre because it is too general. If the movie elements are serious and cannot fit into a more limited genre, then it can be considered a drama. Categorizing a movie indirectly assists in shaping the characters in the story of the movie, the plot, and best setting to use. Now, movies often have genres that overlap, such as adventure in a spy movie or crime in a science fiction movie, but one genre is predominant. Other movie labels cannot be considered genres. Film, noir, thrillers, and action movies are not actually genre, but a director's style.